Welcome, everybody. We have a wonderful, wonderful webinar ahead of us today, Leading Through AI, Building Trust and Resilience. I am so excited to announce the two wonderful folks that we have here today. Let me start with Marley. Marley Jones is a Vice President of Data and AI at the Clearinghouse, where she leads AI strategy and implementation initiatives focused on enterprise innovation, governance, and scalable adoption. She has 8 years of experience in AI and has led multimodal AI projects across a range of enterprise use cases with expertise spanning ML operations, that's machine learning operations, data labeling, and responsible AI deployment. And she's especially passionate about building AI that's explainable and trustworthy, and about making information more accessible and usable for both people and machines. So Marley holds a master's degree in library and information science from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. And she'll tell you herself she's a self-described classification enthusiast. Not surprising with that degree, right? And then we have, hello, Marley, and we have Christie Vazquez. Hi, Marley. And let me introduce Christie. Christie is the Deputy Chief Information Security Officer at the Clearinghouse. She's focused on security operations and engineering. She spent nearly a decade with the Federal Reserve, and most recently as Operational Resilience Senior Manager at the Federal Reserve Board. And before that, co-leading the Cybersecurity Supervision and Examination Program at the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia. Christie holds a PhD and is a certified information systems auditor and certified information systems security professional, and has also served as an adjunct professor at Temple University since 2018, where she is today, attending one of the conferences that they have there and teaching graduate students in IT audit and cybersecurity around the world. Welcome, Christie.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you both so much for being here. I have been so excited about this webinar ever since we spoke last. And unless you both want to say something, I can just get started with our first question.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We can jump right in.
Oh, great. Wonderful. All right. So let's start a little bit with how you are both, here where you are in your careers. So neither of you followed what people might consider a traditional path into technology leadership. Marley, your background is in linguistics and library science before leading data and AI initiatives. And Chrissy, your path took you from like deeply technical cybersecurity roles into executive leadership. So looking back, what experiences or moments, unexpectedly prepared you for the work that you're doing today? And Marley, maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the things that has really unexpectedly changed and helped me in my career is working terrible retail jobs when I was younger. I was thinking about this, and the experience of working, I worked in like high-end retail where it was like really cutthroat, and you have to be able to talk to anyone and get anyone to buy what you're selling, right? And I think that really helped me because in my role, one of the things, and throughout my career, one of the things that has really helped me is being able to speak really technical languages, understand everyone's jargon, and then speak to the business people, speak to customers, speak to vendors, and get across what I need to get across and get from them what I need to get to them and work as translator. And the ability to get people on your side and speak to them and find that common ground and listen is so crucial and vital to being a good leader. The other thing that helped me was the opportunity to work on an actual data science team. So my first role in tech, I was hired on to be a taxonomist, but I sat under the data science team, and they thought, well, great, we have an extra person who's non-technical, we're going to get her to do all the boring parts of our job. And in doing so, I really got thrown into the deep end of machine learning. And I learned everything on the job. I was open and eager for training, which has led me down this path of my career. So I think having the curiosity and openness has paid off for me. And I make the most of every opportunity that I'm given. And I try to learn from every single person that I meet at work. And I really think that from that first job opportunity of being totally out of my depth, I learned that if I am the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. I don't want to be there, right? I want every opportunity to learn from other people. And that goes back to being able to speak to everybody. I get to learn from everybody because I'm able to ask questions, listen. And that's really helped me in my career. And it helps with understanding strategy, understanding pain points, and understanding, my collaborators, such as Christie.
And here we are, Christie.
Yeah, no, I love Marley. I love the retail experience, right? Those college days and even post-college. Yeah, I think and just want to say super grateful to be here today. Sangeeta, thanks for having us. I think when I think back on my career, I'm what you call a boomerang, right? Where I was in the IT very, very technical earlier in my career. Then I moved into a manager role. And then I stepped back into an individual contributor role. And quite honestly, that was probably the most influential experience, because when I was back in that individual contributor role, I really could sit back and say, this is what it feels like to be managed correctly, or, or not correctly, or, things like I'll never cancel a one-on-one again, kind of things where you just really kind of have a different perspective. And that perspective and the behaviors that I knew motivated me are really what I lean into today, right? As an executive and as a leader of people who are leading people. The other pivotal point for me, I think, is the opportunity that I had when I started with the Federal Reserve as an examiner. And this truly taught me to become a business speaker, and really being able to break down control gaps that you would find in organizations. So we supervised financial institutions, and you couldn't say, well, your WAF isn't configured appropriately, or your API is not having the right TLS encryption. Like, you actually had to take that and explain the risk and explain the impact to the critical services. So that really, led me to where I am today, and allowed me to build that muscle and that technical translation ability where I do it today, right? Where I am bringing in my engineers with business folks, my board, et cetera. It really has helped that. And the one thing I want to share, and because, we're making tech purple, very excited about that, is that I was a Girl Scout, right? So when I think back to when I was very, very young, until I was 11th, 12th grade, I was a Girl Scout. And that meant going to meetings, right? It meant creating a goal, and then with a group of people, and then meeting that goal together, whether it be cookie sales, right? Or just getting a badge, or going to camp. And really that instilled a lot of the things, even just when I think back, that was really very, very pivotal in my life as well.
It's interesting that you say that, Christie, and I want to say both to you, Marley and Christie, that one of the things I always talk about, getting the best experience for whatever I do, has been when I was working with the parent-teacher organization in my school. It's like you're working with a whole bunch of people, and like you said, Christie, communication is so important. And when I say communication, I always tell people it's not your accents, it's how you're able to talk to everybody, right? So that's super important. And also what you mentioned, right, that when you are on the other side of the fence, you kind of learn from what people are doing right and what people are doing wrong.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of unlearning also that
Yeah.
goes on for us, right? It's not just what you're learning, but what you have to unlearn from what you've done before. So that makes total sense. But now that both of you are where you are, people often have these assumptions about what AI leaders and cybersecurity leaders actually do. So, what do you think is the one thing that people misunderstand about your job? Like, you know, maybe Christy, let me ask you this one first.
Yeah, and hopefully Marley agrees with this. So
We'll find
it's
out. She goes
is that
next.
is that I think a lot of people think that cybersecurity is just a blocker, right? Where if you go to information security, they're going to say no, you can't do it, it's too risky, and it's really not the job. It's more to making sure that you can help guide the organization in a non-risky way that benefits both the organization, right, and the risk perspective. Because here's the thing, I want to use AI too, right? We need to be using AI in my function, and it's so therefore, right, I have that perspective of I really want to get this in here and start defending and using the models, but at the same time, I know the risks, and those risks are things that my teams have to defend against. There's a new attack surface, right? There's different ways for things to go wrong. There is data being added to these models, I mean, constantly. And what I need to make sure is that folks want to come to my team. They want to have the conversation and bring us in early, and that my architects and engineers aren't just blockers, that they're actually collaborating and trying to build the security from the get-go with folks like Marley.
And Marley, do
Yeah,
you
no,
agree?
it's funny because Christy and I went to an event together. It was actually a cybersecurity event that she brought me along to. And, she was introducing everyone saying like, oh, Marley's my AI counterpart. And they were like, and you guys are friends? Like, you get along? And that's like, yeah.
I remember
work
thinking
together,
the first
this is how you get stuff done. You work collaboratively. So I do agree with Christy. Collaboration is huge for cybersecurity. But for me, for working, in AI, I think people love the idea that if you like work in tech and work in AI, that you love to move fast and break things. I hate that actually. Because the thing is you have to take a very measured approach, particularly at an organization such as ours. We can't really be like loosey goosey. I used to work at startups, and things are a little more loosey goosey, a little more relaxed there. But places at the clearinghouse, you can't just throw AI at everything, use whatever models. No, we have to have rules. And I think people also think that I want you to just use AI for the sake of AI and use AI for everything at all times. But that's just not the case. I want you to use it smartly. I want you to use it securely, as Christy said, and within reason, right? So I think that that's a misconception. The other thing that I personally like to rally against is that every time I tell people that I, like work in AI or work in tech, they go, ooh, right? Like I get that response because everyone thinks it's like really sexy or cool, and you're like coding and hacking the mainframe, but really it's really boring. And I have to explain that to people a lot. I've had interns that get really upset with me when I tell them like, no, your AI project is really going to be about documentation and doing data cleaning. The outcome can be really cool, but the journey is really tedious. And I think that that's something that people misunderstand because they see like the cool AI and results, but they don't see, it's looking at data and spreadsheets, and 90% of it is incredibly boring.
I do have to say one thing over here, though, that I just love it how, it's suddenly like, oh, okay, data and AI and coding is cool. Whereas like a few years ago, it would have been like, oh, nerd,
Yeah, totally. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, hey, that's definitely a good part of all of this.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So yeah, just tell people you're cool. Okay, that's it. Don't tell them about the boring parts. I also do want to say that, as a consumer, I'm really happy that financial institutions are being super careful because, hey, it's my money.
Yeah.
And ours, agreed.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's our money too.
Yes. So Marley, you've spent much of your career focused on the data behind AI and not just models themselves, right? So what's something organizations often underestimate when preparing for AI?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it goes back to what I just said, that it's a lot of like slog, boring work, and it's a
Yeah.
lot of work as well. I think there's three main areas. So it's your data, the skill sets, and then living in reality, frankly. I think they underestimate just where they are as a company on the AI maturity curve. So a couple years ago, there was the phrase, data is the new oil, right? Nobody really says that anymore, but it's still the truth. Like your data as a company is your gold mine. So you need to make sure that you are treating it as such, and having the correct rules, the correct security, et cetera, in place. And also, none of your projects are going to work if your data is crappy. I mean, we all know, garbage in, garbage out. Everyone knows that. But it goes further than that. You need rules for your data. And then again, skills, it's cool if you have ChatGPT and Claude. What are you doing to upskill people? What are you doing to help people use it effectively? I think that's something that a lot of companies overlook. They say like, oh, we rolled out the tool. Neat, right? How are you getting people to use it effectively? How are you getting them to use it to the next level? And then I said the reality. I think people underestimate things like budget and token spend, which is like a super
For
hot
sure.
topic, right? And then again, what you can and what you can't do with AI. I mean, there's so many stories of people saying like, oh, we have AI now. We've fired our entire team because we're going to do it with AI. And then they need to rehire everyone because they didn't really think through the reality of it. So I think there's, like I said, there's three main areas that people underestimate. It's where's your data? Is it AI ready? Skills. Do the people in your organization that you want to use AI have the skills? If not, what are you doing to prepare them and to help them get the skills? And then the reality. The reality is, how much money do you want to spend? And are the use cases that you're picking out, are they the appropriate use cases, or is it just like magic wand AI, right? So to me, those are the main areas that often get underestimated when thinking about how to implement AI in an organization.
I like that magic one AI. And Christy, yeah, right. Christy, do you see the same challenges from a cybersecurity perspective? Like, do you have people also who are probably saying, well, I like ChatGPT, and someone's like, I like Claude, and I like, Copilot. So why aren't we using that? I mean, I'm sure
Oh
you have
yeah,
it,
definitely.
right?
Developers especially, right? I
Yeah.
mean, they even just like certain languages. No, yeah, absolutely. And I think from the cybersecurity perspective, we talked about it before, before the seminar started. And when we think about the skill set, right, and that we're losing the skill set, we're losing kind of entry level positions. But guess what? In the day to day, it's not vibe coding, right? We don't have a bunch of people in our organization just vibe coding all day long, right? What we have is an organization who we were able to be part of the Project Glasswing. We were able to get access to frontier models, and we didn't just sit there and just start typing away and asking, how do you pivot, and how do you basically find all these chains. Instead, we had to kind of take a step back and say, what data, right? Going back to Marley's point, what data are we entering into the model? Are we comfortable entering that data? Because now we're going to enter that data and ask it to find vulnerability. So we had to upload very, very sensitive information. So we had to ask questions about who has access, right? How are we containing and how are we creating guardrails around the model? And then guess what? It wasn't easy to query the model, right? We had to bring in, let's say bring in, but we had folks who, like, hey, I had a security engineer who had a developer background. I was like, tap, and go for it. And when he showed me, it wasn't just go and find, right? it was a lot of, he had to understand language. He had to understand the architecture. The information that's provided back is not super readable right now, right? So there's still there's still places we need to get to as far as like, the maturity of AI, but it's not utopia yet, right? It's not a silver bullet. Data is important. Skill set's important as well. Yeah, it's kind of my thoughts.
So, speaking of guardrails, right?
Yeah.
Like organizations want employees to use AI to work more efficiently, but they also need to, like you said, protect sensitive information. So, where do you think leaders should draw the line between encouraging experimentation and putting the right guardrails in place? Marley, you have thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a huge part of my job, and it's a really hard balance to strike. The democratization of LLMs is awesome, right? Like,
Mhm.
I have Claude and ChatGPT on my phone and Perplex. Like, I have all of it, right? And so does everybody else, which is incredible. Everyone has more information at their fingertips than ever before in human history, and with that, they're doing all kinds of really, really cool stuff at home, which is
Right.
cool. Good for you. Do whatever you want at home. And then they come to work and say, oh, but I want to do the same stuff here. Well, we can't really do that, right? You have to have rules in place, and you have to do that by finding the right risk appetite for your organization. I've been part of 2 implementations of like enterprise-wide ChatGPT, and one of which started with use cases first and rules came later, and it was a disaster. You have to start with your rules first, because then you're able to say, okay, these use cases are doable. These use cases really risky. We don't want to touch them. You have to start with your rules, and it sucks. I at work have an AI fun police badge. This is a real thing that's one of our coworkers made for me to wear when I give training.
It wasn't me.
No, it wasn't Christie, because I suck the fun out of it, right? Because I put in rules. But it's really important to have those rules in place prior to, letting people loose on these. The other thing is, I think leaders need to correctly phrase what they mean when they say they want people to use AI, right? We hear that a lot of like from the top down, like, oh, for your goals, like you have to use AI. You have to make sure you're using AI. But using it a lot doesn't mean you're using it smartly or effectively. If you have someone who's using ChatGPT instead of Google, are they really like doing anything for your ROI, right? Like, does that mean maturity? Lots of usage does not mean equal maturity. You have to see, how are they using it? What are they using it for? What is actually beneficial and is going to get those productivity gains? So using AI for AI's sake is not something that I like to go around and tell people to do. So my perspective is really to set the rules, let people try whatever they want within the rules, let them know, hey, this is not just pulling from a database, right? There are some things that Gen AI is not going to be appropriate for. You need to use more traditional routes for it. And when something doesn't work, move on, find a different way to do it. Yeah, bottom line is you have to have your rules in place first, and those all come down to your risk appetite as an organization, and then articulate what you expect around usage. People are always going to try to push the rules, circumvent the rules. People tell me all the time about how they are breaking the rules, which I'm like, I said I don't know why you're telling me this. I made those rules, but thank you, I guess. But I have to try, right? Like, I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't trying. So I think you have to encourage experimentation within certain boundaries. And again, encourage usage that is worthwhile. Like, don't just say you have to use AI, because then people are going to be like, well, I could have done this faster because I know how to do 2 + 2 = 4, but you told me to use AI, so I'm gonna put it in ChatGPT. That's not helping anyone. That's
so true. Christy, how do you feel about that?
No, I couldn't agree more. I think one of the things that the term that's coming up a lot is AI slop. how many folks are just copying and pasting and sending emails with we call it the semicolon, however, kind of thing. And we're like, who uses semicolon in email? So I think that's kind of just going back to people they're like, have to use AI. So they are. From a security perspective, I'm taking a step back and saying, if you go into the sandbox, there's guardrails, right? You're not allowed as a kid to run around with a knife in the sandbox. You have a bucket. And that's kind of how I think about it, right? Where it's not a free for all. And when I think about our implementation with ChatGPT and our implementation with Claude for the developers, it was very different. It was very different because we didn't partner with Marley's team in the very beginning, right? For ChatGPT, it just lit up. Somebody subscribed, somebody purchased it, and we're like, what's going on here? And then we had to quickly put in prompt security. So we had to basically read every piece of traffic that was going to that site. We needed to put in our proxy, start blocking other AI tools and capability and anything that looked like a prompt. We had to harness it, right? We're like, okay, now we have to make sure that it is only staying within our environment. When we had Claude, we're like, oh, we have access to Bedrock. So we started using it. We had those harnesses in place before we basically implemented Claude. And what's really interesting is those two deployments looked differently and the users experienced it differently. Now, even me personally, I will accidentally put in restricted data into our ChatGPT instance. And thankfully, there's a preventative control that says, yeah, you can't do this. And it literally redacts the information for me. And I'm like, thank goodness. Like, it wasn't intentional. It was just because, I just wasn't thinking about the data, right? Going back to, it was more about, I want, this analysis, that analysis. And so I just think those two experiences from my perspective were very different. Yeah, just, we got to have guardrails, right? And not everybody's in the sandbox with a knife. So anyway.
I have to tell you, I actually love grammar, and I would use colons and semicolons and messages before, and now I have to try not to use them because people
that's awesome.
It's come through AI.
Oh, that's great.
That's how I feel when I bold words, because I'm someone that, like, if I really want you to pay attention, I'll bold something. And I'm like, oh God, now they're going to think ChatGPT wrote it. But I just really want your attention.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's true. So, and I hear what both of you said, right? But generally in technology, and of course, understanding this is financial and everything, but there is always a lot of pressure to move quickly and ship new capabilities. And even, within your organization, people must be like itching to, use it to the most extent. But obviously security cannot be an afterthought. So how do you strike the right balance between the speed and building secure, trustworthy systems?
But either one?
Go for it, Christie.
Yeah, happy to take it first. Yeah, I think I look at it as definitely a balance, kind of going back to the blocker, right? We can't block everything. We need to allow people to experiment. And what I tend to think then is, okay, let's get some monitoring, right? We need visibility. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be always kind of the first piece of it is what visibility do I have so that I can actually mitigate a risk as opposed to mitigating an unfounded risk. That would kind of be something to consider. Your processes, like your architectural review boards, right, should have your security architects. There should be a culture that you're bringing that use case and that to the table so that people can ask questions and talk about that. The other pieces that I'm also using, all organizations do. There are lack of controls that cause me not to sleep at night, right? And it's giving me an opportunity to say, well, if you want this, then I got to do this, right? If you want access to Claude, then I'm going to remove power and administrative user from your desktop. Right? So it for developers, because they're a prickly group at times from a security perspective. Hopefully there's not too many on the call today. But you can actually then use it more as kind of a give and take. So I'm getting a little bit more secure out of this desire for them to want to experiment. Yeah.
I do have to say over there, and Marley, I'm going to ask you that same question, but I just have a quick comment, Christy. That's kind of what we do too, except I think Claude wants to give you an update every
Yes.
week. And then every week I have to go to my system admin and say, please, because this keeps popping up on my window all the time. So, but Marley, please give us your opinion.
Yeah, so I think for me, there's this really interesting idea that I read about there's this woman named Kazi Kozyrkov. I'm not sure if I'm saying her last name correctly, but she's like a AI thought leader, for lack of a better word. But she wrote a whole piece on AI infrastructure debt, which was based off of finding from a Cisco report. And it's essentially like AI debt is the new tech debt, which is like terrible, but it's true. So it is this whole thing that it comes from organizations rushing to deploy AI, and they're not building the proper foundation. So it's the shortcuts you're taking, it's the trade-offs, it's not looking at your data, it's not involving security, and it's all the things that you are like, oh yeah, it's fine. Oh yeah, it's fine. Oh, whatever. Oh, it doesn't matter. We're going to get to the end result. We're going to have AI. It's going to be great. And everything just builds and builds and builds. And then you have, this new version of tech debt, and you have all this like Darrison trash of cool. You have, a chat bot, but like, what have you left in the wake of this chat bot? And so ever since I read that, like blog post from her, I keep it in mind. And so when people are asking for new tools and when they want to build new use cases, I always think like, okay, but back to how everything is actually boring in AI. How do we do this properly, right? Like, how do we stay within our own rules? How do we make sure that everything is documented? Have you spoken to security? Have you gotten your architectural review board sign-offs, right? Like, it's all the really boring, annoying checklist stuff that has to be done. Again, LLMs have made it so that you can just like do whatever really fast, and it's awesome. You can build websites, you can build chatbot, you can build all this stuff. But how does that scale? How are you going to maintain it? Those are very real questions that often no one is thinking about, because again, they just want to get to the sexy, cool, ooh, I did AI, right? But it's all that boring stuff that you really need to spend time on to make sure that you're able to do things securely and at scale. And I mean, again, you can still do it pretty quickly now because you're not just like doing everything by hand, but you're not going to be like, oh, wow, I'm shipping a whole new product in a week. Well, at least not with my AI fun police badge.
Fun police badge. I was thinking that too. I'm like, now I see why she got that badge.
Yeah. I'm the wet blanket.
No, in a very good way. It's very important. Christy, I know in the past also when we have spoken, right, you have talked about how organizations cannot patch their way out of every cyber threat there is any, like at least not anymore, right? And every day things are changing. So how do you think AI has changed that conversation around resilience? And what do you think leaders should be prioritizing now?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I've said that we can't kind of patch our way out of this problem because I think just recently Mandiant released that the time to exploit is like -7 days. Like that's just impossible, right? You can't mitigate that. And what's happening though is that AI is starting to help us change the conversation. So there is this desire to fight AI with AI. And even I think just the other day I saw an FBI bulletin that that threat actors are using AI for spear phishing and basically the exploitation, the reconnaissance phase of the attack. So it's happening, right? Um, and when we think about patching, right? So let's think about kind of this -7 is just going to get faster. We have all these kind of models that are chaining low priority vulnerabilities together to allow elevation and privileged access. In order for us to kind of patch our way out of that, we're going to have to throw bodies, we're going to have to throw people, and we still might not get there. So it changes the conversation around resilience to say we cannot afford a maintenance window anymore. We need to build our systems, architect our systems so that when you're patching, or sorry, when you're identifying a vulnerability, you're self-healing. When you're identifying a vulnerability that it fails over, it allows the fix to go in and then it kind of fails back, right? All of this needs to be automated. And it really kind of is, to me, and I've been in the resilience space for quite some time, and this is a different conversation. This is more of a necessity conversation for most of our systems, as opposed to it being, oh, do we want a hot site or a warm site? Do we want a cluster, or how many nodes do we need? It's definitely a different conversation, which is great. And then what I would say, how to kind of prioritize and what to think about. So we're kind of entering budget season, right? We're starting to think about, at least we are, right? What we can fund next year. And one of my asks is, like, we got to figure out what tools we need to be resilient, that we can patch less without maintenance windows. And that way I'm going to be ahead of the curve, right? Next year, when we're going to be able to maybe have some tools available to us to help resolve for this. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts, is just figure out what your spend's going to be to help you to get ahead of it.
That's true. And so in this, technology that's evolving so incredibly fast, how do you personally stay curious and continue to learn without feeling overwhelmed? I mean, Marley, tell me, how do you do it?
I always feel overwhelmed by it, but in the good way. I mean, I think it's fun, right? Like, again, it's cool how the democratization of, LLMs has really put so much information, so much power out there. When I started my career and I told people, oh, I work with AI or I work with machine learning, I had an uncle say, like, oh, you work with like the robots that fold boxes, right? Like, and I was like, what? No. Because he just had no concept of like what that was.
Right.
But now everybody knows it, which is awesome. But also there's new companies, there's new features, there's new use cases, there's new everything every hour of every day. And it's just you cannot fathom everything that's happening around the world, around AI at any given moment. So it's really hard, but I mean, it's great. I love scrolling through Reddit. I am a longtime Reddit lurker. And people like always are like, oh, you're on Reddit. And I'm like, yeah, it's actually incredibly helpful because there's all kinds of information out there from, people who are at organizations, people who run their own business, and just, again, hobbyists using AI in their day-to-day lives, sharing things that they're building. And some of them are awesome. And I've gotten really great ideas and gotten really good insights. And people share how they're implementing it, their companies, things like that. It's just, for me, and this is something that I try to do at the Clearinghouse as well, AI is the most powerful when you have a community around it. When you are hearing what other people are doing, when people are talking about how they're using it, because that's what sparks ideas. That's what gets people thinking about how they can use it more effectively. That's what gets people working together on use cases. And to me, it's just a giant global community for that. I also really like it because I read a lot about the counter arguments for AI, which is something that is really picking up steam now. There are people who hate it, and everyone is entitled to their opinion. But because a lot of my work does focus on engagement and adoption, it's important for me to be able to understand, what is the public opinion? Why might somebody not want to use this? Like, I think they're awesome, but why does somebody not think they're awesome? How can I understand them? How can I weave, that public opinion, that buzz, some of their counter arguments into my trainings to make people feel better, feel safer in using these tools? Also, it's really important for me to stay on top of, the headlines around it, because inevitably one of our executives is going to say like, oh, hey, did you hear about the token spend? Have you heard about these things called tokens? Right. And I have to know, oh, what news article came out today that they read also and are referring to. So there's no way to stay on top of it. It is very overwhelming, but you just do your best, right? And you figure out what you can what you can do.
I feel like I'm in Vegas and being bombarded with
Absolutely.
everything everywhere at once,
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, Christie, your thoughts.
Yeah, I think same. I think I gave up on trying to kind of learn everything a long time ago, being in technology for so long. And I was just talking about this with some CISOs recently, and there's also you still want to know, right? You still need to feel like you need to be on top of it. And what I did instead of kind of learning and reading and trying to keep up on things, is I just find people who know something, right? Like, so I know now Marley is my AI go-to person, right? Or if I have a quantum, like I have a network that I know of folks that are really excited and energized about the next topic, that I can just kind of pull and start having conversations with. And the other thing too is I just ask a lot of questions, right? When I get around those folks, I am picking their brain and trying to learn as much as I can about a specific topic. Yeah, I think the only other thing I would add is my commute's not as long as Marley. I think we learned before we joined it's a very long commute, but I do listen to podcasts in the morning and on the way home, and I feel like that does keep me a little bit close to kind of what's happening, and doing things like we're doing today, and listening when I have a moment to listen to experts in the industry. So
That's definitely true. There are lots of questions out there, and I just wanted to go ahead and get to answering those, so that we don't keep you beyond our time limit over here. So let me read this one for you. What's the one thing you wish engineers and data teams understand better about cybersecurity when building with AI? Marley, you want to go first?
I think that's a Christie question, because
that's okay.
mine's going to be ask your cybersecurity team what rules they want you to follow, and cybersecurity team here.
I think from a build perspective, what I'm finding is, it's kind of like a SaaS moment some time ago. A lot of this is being built in Azure and AWS. And, we're not yet, right? Our models are not on-prem. These models are in the cloud. And, when I think about a cybersecurity engineer or security engineer, they need to understand that, and they know how to lock it down. That's one thing. I think if I were an engineer, excuse me, actually creating something, it would be, you're not in isolation, right? You're not making your application in isolation. So what are the risks of you calling certain data points? What is the risk of the API call, or having your data up on Grubhub? Wow. GitLab. I'm hungry.
You know what?
GitLab, right?
On the East Coast, it is lunchtime. I get it.
Good point. Yeah. I think that's it. I think it's more of like the connections, and by opening those connections, right? What risks are you now putting in front of the organization?
Right.
Great question.
Right. Yeah. And then Amit saying, great perspectives. How have your budgets moved with AI usage? Are tokens consuming more than anticipated? If yes, how are you controlling it? I know you did mention a little bit about this earlier, Marley, but if either of you want to take this question.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the beauty of a lot of the enterprise tools that we're seeing now is that they do have alert systems on for thresholds of token spend. And that's how we are keeping an eye on it. The biggest thing is someone looking at those alerts, right? Like, so we have redundancy in all of our alerts, right? So these alerts go to multiple people, which I think is like, it sounds kind of like, well, duh, but it's actually like really important that multiple people are getting these alerts, because otherwise you're never, what if someone's on vacation, or if someone, it has like an unruly inbox, right? And I think the thing is I am aware that we are a very risk averse company. I am aware of my budget and that I do not have infinite spend, which would be cool, but I don't. So I have like a ton of alerts. It's kind of like when you set your alarm for like 5:30, 5:35, 5:40, 5:40, right? You set it for like the 5 minutes increments. Do the same thing with your alerting and your thresholds. The other thing is it not only alerting, but you can kind of like throttle usage as well.
Yeah.
So we have not implemented this yet, but one of the things will likely be implementing next year once, because we're really on our maturity journey, is that you can take a look at your historical data of users and see who is using a lot, who is using a little, kind of figure out an average, and then set those thresholds per user. And it can be user group, it can be persona, however you want to do it. But essentially, they're going to get throttled. And obviously, you don't do this without telling people of like, oh, haha, surprise, you ran out, right? As we roll this out, you have to have education around, hey, this is coming, this is going to be implemented. You have X amount of tokens to spend. If you do it all on the first of the month,
Guess
sorry.
what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you need to think through, what are you doing? And it's also not just about, the AI team's budget. It's about each team's budget. So like, so you want to build an AI use case.
Mhm.
You have to think through, what does that mean for your team too, right?
Yeah.
Budget time, budget people, budget money, because it's going to cost all three of those.
And maintenance.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And going forward, it's going to cost budget, time, and money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I really think, like, my Apple Watch tells me 10 minutes to the hour, it's time to stand up and walk. So there should be something like that that's, going to Apple Watch saying, hey, you're out of tokens.
Mhm.
So Irvin says, I'd be curious to know, as organizations move from experimenting with AI to adopting it, what evidence should leaders look for to know their workforce and operating model are truly ready to scale, not just ready to run a pilot? I think that's a great question.
Great question.
Yeah, that is a really good question. That is, so I have, again, my Fun Police badge that I,
Mhm.
will shine a little bit. I have created an entire like playbook for this, and it's just with like internal apps, even of, if you build a custom GPT that you think is really great, but now you want your whole team to use it. How do we know that it works, right? So you have to be able to prove to me, prove to the company, prove to everybody else that this is fit for purpose, right? That it has been rigorously tested, that it works as intended, that you do have a maintenance plan in place. People think, or have the common misconception that, like, because you can vibe code something, that like one and done, right? No, these things need care and feeding as well, right? Do you have a knowledge base? Is someone on point for keeping it fresh? It's thinking through this as a full scale project and proving to your leadership that, like, I ran a pilot, I laid out success metrics for this pilot. Here they are. Here's my evidence that I met these success metrics. This is my plan for how, at scale, we're going to continue to hit these success metrics. Some of these things can be automated. Some of these things can be tracked through other tools. But the point is to move anything from pilot to scale, whether it's, an internal custom GPT to an actual, AI tool that you want to purchase. You have to have that clear criteria set forth, and you need to evidence that whatever it is has met that criteria and will continue to do so. Christie, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah,
That was
gonna say that's
really
on the ROI
comprehensive.
side, if you have something on the security side for that.
No, I think it was super comprehensive. I mean, absolutely. I think I think the points you made, Marley, are spot on.
Okay. And this is a question for both Christie and Marley from Sanjay. There's a common misconception that tech leaders are indifferent to the human cost of AI transformation. In reality, many of us are optimists working to ensure its benefits reach everyone. As Satya Nadella put it, we always need to think of AI as scaffolding for human potential versus a substitute. So, how are you designing AI strategies that protect workers and use that scaffolding to build human capability rather than erode trust?
Oh, I love that question. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart, because I have worked in a lot of places where, I've brought the AI and people freak out, right? Because they think, oh my God, my job is gone. And it's like, no, 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 no. No, that's not what we're doing here. We're helping you do your job better. And I think one of the things I do at my role at TCH is I give a lot of trainings. And the thing that I always talk about, regardless of the type of training it is or what I am training about, is that AI works best when it's human plus AI, right? Back to what I was saying with, companies that try to they decimate their entire customer service team because they're going to get AI, right? And then they say, oh no, this didn't work. Everybody, we're hiring you back, right? It's because you need that human touch plus that AI. We as humans have a lot of context. We can make a lot of logical leaps that the AI can come to a close approximation, but for a lot of stuff, it's just not 100% there. For the things that it is, automate away, get it to do everything you can. But for a lot of it, you're still always going to need a human in the loop at some point, and you're going to need that human understanding. Even if you do have some kind of automated AI, customer service, you're going to need escalation, right? You're going to need that human there for when people just are really pissed and they want to talk to a person. So it's about changing the perspective of like, oh no, this is coming to take my job, to, oh no, this is coming to help me do my job better so that maybe I can do different things in my job. And I think that's what I always try to get across in my trainings is that how can we take your time from, sending the exact same email every week to coming up with a new email to send, or like a new meeting to have, something new to do that also moves everything forward.
Christie?
No, again, absolutely love it. I think it's really bridging the divide, which I think is great, right? It's getting folks that wouldn't be able to I'll put my teaching hat on for a moment, right? Someone's really struggling with calculus and you're like, hey, I have a math assistant, and they can kind of walk you through in the way that you're learning to help you to kind of excel and so that you can take those concepts, right, and apply them. I think that the piece around the eroding the trust it really harkens back to what Marley said, and that is that human in the loop verification, trust but verify, but that the you're just critically thinking, right? Don't just go into kind of just drive neutral basically and just start using AI, but critically think about it as you're using it. I think, and that will I think that'll benefit us all.
I see. All right. I'm not sure we have time for any more. Oh, there. Okay. One last one. For someone early in their career, would you focus on learning specific AI tools or building stronger fundamentals?
My vote is fundamentals. Christy, what about you?
Yeah, same. I think because to your point, right? There's models popping up everywhere. There's tools popping up everywhere. But I would love to get more people that kind of understand connectivity, right? Interconnections and different tools and how the organization is going to use it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because by the time you learn one tool, it has already gone past you.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly. Great question.
I always tell people like ChatGPT and Claude, it's the Pepsi and Coke, right? Like, are you going to a party that has Coke? Are you going to a party that has Pepsi? Are you going to a party that has both? No one
Yeah.
really cares. If you just want a soda, you're going to get it like a soda, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just, do you know soda? That's what matters.
That's
That's
awesome.
true. That's true. Well, we have covered a lot today. So, if there's one idea or takeaway you hope people remember from this conversation, 10 minutes from now or a week from now, what would it be? Um, Marley?
Oh, I think as you know, as we have Christie, who's cyber, and myself, who's AI, I think the one thing people should think through is these two, parts of your organization do not have to be at odds, right? Like the whole goal is to get you doing awesome stuff securely and within the rules. And I think the thing that Christy and I both always try to get across is yes, perhaps we are party poopers, right? Like, yes, perhaps we are saying no to stuff right now, but it's not because we don't want you to do it. It's because just because you can do something at work doesn't mean you should be doing something at work. How do we do things securely and safely for our organization? AI is here. It's not going anywhere, right? Like everyone's going to be using it. We need to figure out how you can do so within our rules. And it sucks to say no sometimes because you're like, oh, that's really cool. But at the end of the day, it is work.
It's true.
Yeah.
Christy,
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit more similar to AI as well, but kind of like get comfortable being uncomfortable. I always love that saying because that's where you grow, that's where you learn, right? When your muscles are aching when you're working out, it's because you're building muscle, right?
that's right.
You're training it. So I would say don't shy away from it. If you're uncomfortable using AI, get comfortable using it. And if you are, using it, get comfortable using a different tool, right? So yeah, just continue to be uncomfortable and you'll continue to grow.
That's wonderful. I have to say, when I first met you both, I had the same reaction that you spoke of in the beginning, Marley, where you were like, you two are friends, we work together. And that was what was really exciting for me because it's so different from what I have seen so far. So it must be so wonderful to have each other's support. I'm truly envious. But thank you so much. This was so exciting for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other people. Love the questions that came through, and I hope to continue our conversation further another day. A few more iterations of AI, and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But thank you both for taking the time and being here. And Christy, enjoy at Temple with your next conversation. And Marley, both of you, thank you very much for being here. Everyone, thank you for attending and coming up with lovely follow-up questions. And have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone. Thank you so
Thanks so much
much.
for having us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks. Bye-bye.